Welcome to the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Digital marketing essentials and next level tactics. From offsite and on-site optimization to persuasive selling and everything in between. You'll learn actionable tips on what it takes to outright and outrank your competition.
Welcome back to another episode of the SEO.co podcast. Today we're kicking off a new series, How to Maximize Customer Lifetime Value in Digital Marketing. Every time you look up, it seems as if there's another metric or analytic to track as it relates to your business. There are KPIs, KSIs, and even KRIs. Then you've got CSF, OKR, and OGSM, and those are just the categories of metrics. Underneath each of these headings, there are dozens of different measurements for your eyes to feast on. If you wanted to, you could spend your entire work week analyzing data and trying to make sense of where your business stands. But that's not the best use of your time. In fact, you can get an accurate pulse of how your business is doing at any time by just tracking a handful of critical metrics. One of the most telling is something known as customer lifetime value. Armed with an understanding of your customer lifetime value, or CLV, you can make more intelligent decisions about sales, marketing, branding, pricing, service, retention, and profitability. It's a revealing data point that promises to provide clarity at nearly every level of your business. The question is, do you have a bead on your CLV? So what is customer lifetime value? The name is pretty self-explanatory, but let's go ahead and make sure we're on the same page regarding what we mean by customer lifetime value. The simplest definition is that customer lifetime value is the measurement of how much money a customer will yield over their entire time as a paying customer. In other words, CLV looks beyond how much a customer spends in one transaction or even how much they spend over the course of a year, and instead focuses on the total amount of money they'll bring in over their lifetime. In the most basic sense, CLV tells you how much a customer is worth so that you can better understand how much to spend acquiring and retaining them for maximum profitability. While we will refer to customer lifetime value by the acronym CLV in this guide, you should know that it's also known as CLTV and LTV in other circles. But regardless of the acronym used, everyone is referring to the same thing. So, calculating customer lifetime value. There's no need for a fancy calculator or mathematics degree to calculate CLV. You only need a handful of numbers, and you can quickly transform them into a crisp number that tells you exactly where you stand. So here's the basic CLV formula. It's average order value times average purchase frequency times average customer lifetime. Let's use McDonald's as an example. If McDonald's executives know that the average order value is $7 and they make approximately 15 purchases per year for an average of 40 years, the equation will look something like $7 times 15 purchases times 40 years. That number comes out to $4,200, which is purely hypothetical. Based on this number, McDonald's knows that they're going to make an average of $4,200 in top-line revenue off of every customer at the register. They'll make $1,000 on some customers and $10,000 on others, but the average is $4,200. This helps them better understand how much they can afford to spend to acquire and retain these customers. For example, if McDonald's is only spending an average of $25 in marketing and ad spend to acquire a customer and another $75 to retain that customer over their lifetime, well, that's a pretty profitable arrangement. But if they're spending $1,500 to acquire a customer and another $3,000 to retain that customer over the next several decades, they're actually in the red. They're losing money. So why does customer lifetime value matter? In addition to proving clarity on the profitability of each customer and giving you insight into how much you can reasonably spend on your digital marketing and advertising to acquire and retain a customer, the CLV metric offers a number of other important points of value, including 1. Puts an emphasis on retention. Most companies take a backward approach to generating revenue. They focus on how much they can reasonably spend on acquisition in order to move the needle in a positive direction. And while there's certainly a case to be made for spending, that's really the wrong way to look at CLV. In reality, the focus should be on retention. It's just a matter of understanding the math. For every 1% of customers who return after their initial purchase to make a follow-up purchase, you're basically increasing your revenue by 10%. Extrapolated, that means growing retention by roughly 10% effectively doubles your revenue. If you want to think about it another way, reducing churn by just 5% can increase your profits to the tune of 25% to 125%. Small changes for big gains. 2. Justifies incentive-based marketing. If you're struggling with how to get customers to come back and make repeat purchases after an initial transaction with your business, understanding your CLV gives you the freedom to be a bit more aggressive. This is especially true when you're the person tasked with getting the decision maker to sign off on a new campaign. While it might be different in your industry, we know that in e-commerce, the probability of selling to a new customer on your website is somewhere in the 1% to 5% range, depending on how dialed in your website is and what the quality of your traffic looks like. Yet the probability of selling to an existing customer who visits your website is in the 60 to 70% range. Not only that, but returning customers will spend an average of 67% more than a first-time buyer. All of those numbers support the idea of pursuing existing customers, and they may very well serve as the justification for launching powerful incentive-based marketing campaigns. A high CLV is basically a green light for reshaping your marketing to focus on the lowest hanging fruit. Number 3, focuses your efforts around loyalty. With very few exceptions, most businesses find that their revenue follows the Pareto principle. In other words, 80% of revenue comes from just 20% of customers. CLV helps you identify who the 20% are. While you'll have to do some digging in order to segment your own customer list, most businesses get to the point where they calculate separate CLV for different portions of their customer base. In other words, you might have a different CLV calculation for different demographics, and then based on the data that pops out of those calculations, it becomes clear who your most profitable targets are. Once you know who your top 20% customers are, you can then focus your loyalty efforts around them. You don't necessarily have to tell the other 80% to go take a hike, but some of the resources that are going to those groups can be efficiently reallocated to the 20%ers. And that's all we've got for this episode. Join us next time as we dive into specific strategies for maximizing CLV. Thanks again for listening to the SEO.co podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on the SEO.co podcast. We appreciate your time. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit SEO.co for more resources based on today's topic, as well as access to more podcast episodes to help you improve your site's long-term SEO success.